Dear brothers, happy Monday. We're going to start off with something important this week, specifically in the world of fitness and nutrition. That is a common thread that I see with too many people. And I had posted out on Saturday about the fact that most men are underloading themselves and they're not actually hitting what they should in the gym. And this is going to go along the same line as that. And as you saw by the title of this episode, it's you can't improve what you don't measure. And so I'm going to explain that with a couple of examples of clients of mine that should hopefully help you guys and really hammer that point home and why it's so important. So this was a few months ago now, but I took on a new client and he was upset that he hadn't lost weight across the last roughly 6 months. And so he said that he had been dieting. He said that he was trying to eat better and he hadn't really lost any weight, maybe a pound or two, but it kind of fluctuated, but he never really lost any weight. And so my first question to him was, have you been tracking what you've been eating? Or, have you been tracking your calories? Have you been keeping tabs on things? Have you cut things out completely and, kept track that, hey, I haven't had sugar in 30 days or whatever? And he said, well, no, I've just been trying to be better. And so he hadn't seen any progress, but at the end of the day, he also wasn't tracking anything. There was no, even if you weren't just doing like, I've got to have this much protein and carbohydrate and fat, there was no tracking of what he was taking in or being good about. And so because of that, he wasn't really sure like what he'd been taking in, and he hadn't lost weight in the last 6 months. And so although he was upset about it, there was really no way to know why, from a numbers perspective, he was struggling. So that was the nutrition client. I had another client, this is a little more recently, who did not feel like he was getting any stronger. He didn't feel like his body composition was improving, and he'd been working out in the gym for a good 3-4 months and just didn't feel like he was seeing a whole lot of progress. And I asked him the same exact question. Have you been tracking your weights? Have you been following a program? And he said, well, not really. I'm just, I kind of go in and do a few things. Like I've been consistent. I've been in the gym 3 or 4 days a week and I've been working out, but I'm not, keeping track of things. But isn't it good enough that I'm just showing up? And here's the thing. The answer to both of those questions is, yeah, it's good that you're trying to make changes, but it goes back to my original point. You can't improve what you don't measure. If you are trying to lose weight, you're going to have to probably get on the scale at some point to see where you are. And then for my clients that really want to lose weight, we weigh in at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. So we're seeing if we're making incremental change. Example being, if I have somebody who wants to lose 10 pounds, I go, okay, you're going to weigh in on Mondays and you're going to weigh in on Thursdays. And every week we're going to measure this. And if I don't see that you're losing maybe a pound or two a week, depending on where we're starting at, then we're going to have to make some adjustments to your calories, or you're lying to me about what you're eating. It's one of those two things. And so at the very least, we should be looking at your weight. Not just the client I had mentioned who hadn't lost any weight wasn't weighing himself regularly, maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months. And so in that 6-month time frame, he had like 3 times that he weighed himself, and they were all about the same. So had he been doing that in the first month and been like, hey, I haven't lost anything, then maybe we need to make some adjustments. So again, you have to have some kind of numbers you're working with. So in nutrition, we start with your body weight. We have to look at that. Next to that, I've been harping on protein so hard recently, I'll use that. Are you measuring how much protein you're getting in a day? Even if it's rough, you're just measuring like, hey, I've had, 20 ounces of meat. I know that there's, 7 grams of protein in that, and I do 20 times 7, and then I do the calories. And, are you measuring that? Are you using something like MyFitnessPal or like My Personal App or MacroFactor and plugging in what you ate and seeing the calories come out? If you're not tracking those things, it is impossible to know why you're really not losing weight. There's no data for us to go off of. More than that, you're not seeing it. So this guy that had taken 6 months and hadn't lost any weight, he wasn't constantly seeing that his calories were actually at or above, in some cases, where he was supposed to be. So even though he felt like he was eating better, which is completely subjective because we had no proof of it, it wasn't like there was a food log, he really wasn't. And he wasn't looking at the numbers or the data, and so he wasn't measuring it, and thus he was gaining weight. So now we'll go to our guy who wasn't gaining any strength. Didn't feel like he was looking better. He wasn't keeping track of any of his weights. So one of the things that I see in the gym from men all the time is that they go in, they do the same 5 to 10 exercises at the exact same weight, at the exact same sets and reps, roughly, because it's easy to remember. They're like, yeah, I do 3 sets of 10 to 12 of all of these machines, and I do about the same weight every week because that's just kind of what I remember. Well, your muscles aren't being taxed hard enough to actually have a response and get stronger. Your body's adapted now so that it's really not that fatiguing for your muscles and your body to do that workout. So there's no reason for your body to get any stronger. You're not asking it to do more so it can level up and get better. So yeah, you're not going to see any strength change because you're keeping no track really of your weights. I see that a lot with people that they'll have, we'll call it 10 exercises again. They do 3 on Monday, they do another 3, and then maybe they go back and do 1 from Monday. But they're just not keeping track of any of it. They're not following a program of any kind. Again, we can't improve on anything because we're not measuring anything. So when this guy was like, hey, I haven't gotten any stronger, I'm like, okay, well, you told me that you do the leg press. How much weight were you doing on the leg press 3 months ago for how many sets and reps? He's like, I don't know, 150, 200 pounds. And I was doing like 3 sets of 10. And I'm like, well, what are you doing now? He's like, oh, well, it's probably about the same. I'm like, so we don't know. So again, I can't use that metric and actually improve anything. I won't beat a dead horse here. I'll keep this very simple today, but this is something that men struggle with immensely. And it is a very, very, very simple correction that will change your health completely. We just have to start measuring a couple of things. We don't have to measure everything. For my nutrition folks, I don't need you to measure fats and carbs and proteins and all of your micronutrients as well, and make sure that you're getting X amounts of ounces of water in a day. I don't need you to do all of it, but we have to do something in order for us to actually see if progress is being made. And sometimes that can be specific to the person, and it is. But with my weightlifting people, I have to know how much weight you're using, how many sets and reps you're doing. Are you following a program? Are you trying to progress up in weight every week or in reps or just volume generally speaking? So the simple fact of all of this is if you want to improve something, we have to just begin measuring it. So for the client that I talked about who hadn't lost any weight in 6 months, we did 2 things. I had him weigh in on Mondays and Thursdays, and he submitted it right on his app. And then I had him hit a very specific number of protein in a day. For him, it was like 205 grams, I believe. And that's all we measured. That was it. We weighed in and we measured his protein during the week. Within a month and a half, he was down roughly 8 to 10 pounds. But again, we were measuring something. We had a litmus test because after a couple of weeks, we hadn't seen really any weight loss whatsoever. And I said, okay, so we must be having a little extra somewhere else. So I actually had bumped his protein at that point, and so that I had cut some other things out. But again, it wasn't like we were going crazy with metrics, but we started looking at something, numbers that he had to face, and he started to lose weight. For my guy that wasn't getting any stronger, it was really simple for him. We just put him on a strict program, and he followed it. So every week he was instructed, if you can go up in weight and still perform the reps with 1 or 2 left in the tank, you go up in weight. Within a month and a half, he was somewhere around 10 to 15 pounds more in every workout he was doing. Thus, we see that strength is improving. And he felt better. Felt like he was starting to see his biceps a little bit. He was starting to feel good. That's great. And all we did was make him record what he was doing. It doesn't have to be rocket science, guys. But when you start to track what you're doing, when you start to measure what you're doing, 3 big things happen. Number 1, it gives you real, tangible data. You can do something with that. It's not just a subjective feeling, although we do measure those too. How hard something was, how'd you feel when you worked out, how much stress are you under this week, etc. It's not like those things don't matter, but it still gives us data. It's real, hard numbers. You ate this much protein today. You weigh this much today. It's just an objective number that we can work with and make changes based off. So that's number 1. Number 2, it makes you face hard truths about your health. when you weigh yourself, right, there's nothing wrong with the scale. People don't like the scale, but there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It gives you a number. Whether you like it or not is a personal thing. That's a personal feeling. That's your, how you interpret what that thing says. And if you don't like what it says, that's probably a good sign that maybe we need to make some changes, okay? So when you measure things, it makes you face the fact that, hey, I haven't lost any weight. Hey, I don't look the way that I want to. Hey, my strength isn't where I want it to be. Easy as that. Number 3, when you have measurements, when you have data, you can create more consistency and discipline and have an actual guide to make changes. If I know that your weight is 250 pounds, we go, hey, I want it to be 230 pounds. Now we can set up a game plan to actually reach that goal. But if I don't know what that is, we're shooting in the dark. We're running back, we're running on a wheel and we're going nowhere. That's not what we need. We have to be able to do that. So again, those 3 things. It gives you real data that you can use. 2, it makes you face the fact that maybe you're not where you want to be. And 3, it allows us to create a guide map, a travel guide plan at that point, where we can actually go make those changes. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that, guys. But I'm telling you, if all you do with your programming, with your nutrition, is just start measuring 1 or 2 things. Again, I don't need you to measure everything. I know people hate to be like, oh, well, I don't want to count my food. I don't want to count my calories. That's too much work. I just want to be able to go and do these things. I hate to break this to you. You can do that. And maybe you'll have some results, but they're not going to be great. That's just not how it works. When you want to get good at things, you have to be tested on it. If you want to get smarter at stuff, you have to get tested on it. You want to learn a new language, you have to go and test yourself constantly trying to figure out how to do those things. Fitness and nutrition is absolutely no different. And it's very simple overall. Start tracking things, create a goal based on that. And if you're not hitting that goal, you can see it. Your numbers tell you that. Hey, I haven't lost any weight in 6 months. Well, clearly. So we need to make some adjustments. So, voice right there lost. That was great. Feeling better is great, guys. And I'm not going to be upset with you because you're going to the gym and you're trying. I keep losing my voice. What's going on, everybody? That you're going to the gym, that you're trying to work on your nutrition. I applaud you for that. But I'm telling you, all you have to do is start tracking a couple of those metrics and you will drastically improve. Drastically. Doesn't take a lot. If you need help with that, you know how to find me. But I want you guys all to succeed to the nth degree. You have to start tracking what you're doing. It's the only way. I'll leave it at that. Happy Monday. I love you all. God bless. Be strong. Whew, let's get after it this week, baby. We'll see you, boys.